What does it mean when the speaker gets up and looks at his watch? Not a thing. Let's pray. Lord, help me. Amen. That may be the shortest prayer you'll ever hear from this pulpit. The search committee has been working and praying. We've also been in meetings with our deacons, and we think it's time to bring you up to date on where we are and what we're doing. Who are we looking for? What kind of church are we? We are a congregation-governed church. We believe in traditional Baptist worship. We also believe in strong financial support of missions. How did we get this way? And how has God blessed this church so far? These three men, Bob Foy, Bill Daniel, and Reverend Buddy Freeman, were members of the Peninsula Baptist Church. They had a meeting January the 20th in 2009 at a Wendy's restaurant in Mooresville. They had decided that there needed to be a new Baptist church in Mooresville. They were probably the only three people in North Carolina that believed that. As a result of this meeting, another meeting was scheduled at the Golden Corral. They went to the corral and they asked them if they could have one of their back rooms to meet in. And they said, sure, that's what they're for. So they set up a meeting for February the 11th. When they went there, they discovered that they had set up 42 chairs. Bill says, oh no, we're not going to need that many. There's only going to be a half a dozen or so here, maybe 12. Exactly 42 people showed up. That's what we call a God thing. They used to call them miracles. You can't explain them any other way. We call them God things. They set up another meeting at the Charlie Mack Center, March the 1st, 2009. The sun was shining there on that particular picture, but that day it was cold and it was raining sideways. 125 people showed up. In the meantime, a steering committee was set up. This is the group of men and women who decided which way this church was going to go and what kind of church it was going to be. We said we need a traditional Baptist church. Everybody said, you're nuts. At that particular time, all the churches were going contemporary. We said, no, we want a traditional Baptist church. Those men you see there are Buddy Freeman. Buddy agreed to be the spiritual leader. Bill Daniel agreed to organize the new church. Bill Barrett agreed to lead the music. Sal Marvel agreed to be the treasurer. Cecil Klein agreed to be Cecil Klein. And we have Harmon James, Art Smith, Tommy Johnson, Mike Falkenberry, Bob Joyner, Mike Anthony. I joined a few weeks later. We had Judy McCall, Linda Schote, and Becky Charles. These are the people who put together our Constitution and our bylaws. Our membership was growing. The very first Sunday that we met, that's Fat Boy's Restaurant. If you will look at the right-hand side of the picture, that part of the building is a separate room that's set up for meetings. They agreed to let us meet there. We had 151 people to show up at Fat Boys. One more, there we go. The spirit in that meeting was unbelievable. One man who was there said that he was so overcome with emotion he couldn't even speak. He didn't say a word the whole time he was there. God has blessed the beginnings of this church. We immediately called Dr. Hugh Cooper. Doctor was Cooper was not the senior pastor at Peninsula. He was the senior pastor. And he was the perfect fit for us. He was God's man in God's place at the right time. And he agreed to come and serve as our minister. Our membership continued to grow. Guess what? We couldn't find a larger facility. We looked all over Mooresville. No one wanted a Baptist church near them, around them, in their area. We couldn't find a place. There was already a church meeting at Lake Norman, a startup church meeting at Lake Norman Elementary School. Suddenly, they left, and that facility became available. On May the 17th, we moved to Lake Norman Elementary School. That was choir practice in the hallway between the auditorium and the boys and girls bathroom. The acoustics are real good in the bathroom, they say. So what did we do? The men of the church and some of the women would come over to the schoolhouse on Saturday morning, and they would convert that auditorium into a worship center. They would put in the sound system, the microphones, and the speakers, and set up all the chairs. We would have a service Sunday morning and Sunday evening, and then you load them up, pack them up, ship them out the back door into the trailers. We did that over 100 times. We knew how. But we needed a facility of our own. Our membership was continuing to grow. In the meantime, a group of men were meeting at Corrine's Cafe. This is located at Highway 150 and 115. It's 8:30 every Wednesday morning. All the men in the church are invited to attend. We eat breakfast that we don't have to fix or clean up after. And then we break up into small groups for a prayer session. This is a picture of the typical men that show up. We usually have from 8 or 9 to as many as 25. I want to bring one particular guy to your attention. And his name is not Bidnail, it's Beadnail. Sometimes my mind is not connected to my fingers. But Jim Beadnail said, guys, we need to be specific in our prayers. We need to specify exactly what we need. Jim was chairman of the finance committee at the time. Jim says, fellas, we need 10 to 12 acres of land. We don't want any structure on it. We don't want any trees or gullies or rocks. It needs to be good because we don't have the money to do anything to it. And I'm thinking, right. And then he said, and it's got to be inside the city limits of Mooresville. Okay. I was not too much of a believer at that time. We had been looking for land for 2 years. We had been looking for about a year, frantically looking. We could not get anyone to talk to us. We tried knocking on doors. We tried kicking on doors. They wouldn't give us the time of day. The city of Mooresville didn't want another church in this town. And evidently neither did anyone else. Jim gave us a call one day. And he says, fellas, we got to go look at a piece of property. And I'm thinking, okay, we've been looking for a year. What time next week? Excuse me. And he said, how about the next 30 minutes? We drove over to that property. Almost every man on the committee was there. And we looked at it. And we walked up on it. That shot right there is where this facility is sitting right now. You see any structure, trees, rocks, or gutters? Every one of us knew that this was where we needed to be. There was no doubt in anyone's mind. We had that assurance. What we needed was to find out how to buy it. You see on Dr. Cooper's shoulder there on the left, the stuffed Stanley house, 2 generations had farmed this land. Tommy Johnson's father had farmed it with Mr. Stubbs. He knew these people well. It was another God thing. To make a long story short, we went to these people and we said, would you like to have a church sitting on this hill? Miss Stubbs says, that would be nice. She says, I've got 88 acres here. You can have all of it or any portion of it, and it's $40,000 an acre. We closed the deal on that property in April of 2009. We bought 12.36 acres, and it was paid for on November the 5th of the same year. That was another God thing. Now what do we need to do? We've got the land. This was the day the handshake was made. Evidently, here we go. Meanwhile, back in the schoolhouse, there are kids that need to be taught. There are toddlers that need to be held. You'll see some of the same people doing the teaching and the holding that was there in the beginning. Some of these kids are no longer kids. They're in college now, or they're graduated. Some of them have even learned to wear their shoes all day. We had 2 Christmases over there, 2 Christmas programs. This is the choir. You can see Jerry Lauder sitting down on the right. He's gone home to be with the Lord. At that time, he was in a lot of pain and he couldn't stand up for him. We had a lot of blessings there. But we needed to raise some money. We had a lady in the church called Isabel Morris. Her and her son Bill joined the church. You asked her how she was doing, and what did she say? Blessed beyond measure. That's the way we felt. She became the poster child for our stewardship campaign. And based on what we knew, we had a builder by now. We had a plan. We had architectural drawings. We were ready to build. All we needed was the money. So what did we do? We decided we needed to raise $800,000. The Baptist Foundation was now in the business of giving loans to churches to start up. That's another God thing. Bill Daniel helped start that committee. We knew that we needed to raise that money. They said, if you can do that, we will finance about $2 million, and we would need to issue promissory notes for another $700,000 to get to $3 million we needed to build this facility. We called in Lifeway to help raise these funds. They said, based on your giving history, you can raise a maximum of $350,000. You can expect about $250,000. We said, we don't think so. They left the building. We raised $910,000. And if I remember correctly, the Baptist Foundation financed a good portion of the rest of it. We went to the land every chance we get. The RAs put a cross up on that property. We were out there a lot. Lo and behold, one morning the cement truck showed up and we started spreading concrete. We thought we were going to have to handcuff Wes Kinnaman to keep him off of it. But they got the job done. In one day, they laid the foundation. Next slide. I'm getting some good help from the back, folks. This thing's not working. I'm just playing with it. The groundbreaking was Easter Sunday, 2011. The first service was 1 year later, and what a glorious service that was. The sun rose, split the eastern sky. The fog was rolling in off of the lake, and it lit up those treetops across the valley. And it was absolutely gorgeous. God was saying, "This is it. Well done." Art and June Smith adorned that old cross with white linen, with a crown of thorns, and with Easter lilies. And we were prepared to videotape this first service. Keep going. There we go. There was over 600 people in the service. And it was quite a day. God has blessed this church as a traditional Baptist church. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. We're out of time. What kind of a church? Congregation governed. Almost everybody in this church is elected. Almost everybody is appointed, is appointed by the congregation. We believe in traditional Baptist worship. What does that mean? Traditional Baptist worship. Next slide. Next slide. It means the sanctuary is a sanctuary. When you walk in here, you know this is a sanctuary. This room will not be used for secular meetings. We're not going to have any town hall meetings here. We've got all kinds of facilities for that. You remember the Norman Rockwell pictures of town hall meetings in the church? Well, back then, that was probably the only facility available that would house everybody. And most of the town hall members were members of the church. That's not the case anymore, is it? The music is traditional. Well, let me say one more word about the sanctuary. We're going to preach the word here. And the emphasis is in leading souls to Christ. You can have your weddings here, and you can have your funerals here. We'll rejoice with you, and we'll cry with you. But we're not going to participate in same-sex marriages here. Those marriages have been sanctioned, and it's the law of the land by the federal government and the state government. We feel it's their responsibility to provide the facilities and the qualified people to conduct those weddings. Our pastors are not allowed to participate in a same-sex marriage. The music is traditional. What does that mean? Well, you know what that means because you've been here. We're not saying that contemporary music is wrong. We're just saying it's not for us. There's a lot of contemporary music that is beautiful, and we will use that from time to time when it's appropriate. But we love the old hymns, and we believe our children can learn to love the old hymns. What we don't like is what I call 7-11 music. It's one verse with 7 words in it, and you repeat it 11 times. We don't want to do that here. I'm reminded of the Pharisees that Jesus talked about that stand on the corner and they're repeating the prayers over and over again as if God is hard of hearing. He said they have their reward. As Tony said here, the preaching is from the Bible. You're not going to hear "I'm okay, you're okay" preached from this pulpit. You're not going to hear prosperity gospel or messages preached from here. We believe if you lift up Jesus Christ, He will draw the crowd. And that's what we want to do. We also believe in strong mission support. Did you know 23% of every dollar that you give to this church goes to missions? We know for a fact from this church and others that we've been in when you give strongly to missions, when you follow the Great Commission, that God blesses that. We have seen it. Anytime a church gets in financial problems, what's the first thing they do? They cut their mission support. Ours is set up on a formula. Regardless of what comes in, 23%, and you can get a copy of where that money goes, how it's distributed. I don't have time to do that this morning. But we feel very strongly that we need to continue that. So those are the points that we say we are. Now, what kind of man are we looking for? We're looking for a man that wants to be here. We're not looking for someone that wants to come in with this grandiose plan and put in lights and smoke machines and try to emulate the mega churches. That's not who we are. That's not who we're looking for. We also believe that there's a man out there that is searching for Trinity Baptist Church. He may be in a church right now where he's conducting a traditional service, a blended service, and a contemporary service. You can't mix that. You've got 3 different churches. We saw that. We know what happens. We believe there is a place in Mooresville for traditional Baptist church. And I'm talking Southern Baptist Church. We're proud of that. We put that on our name. We're not backing away from it. That's who we're looking for. And we believe God has got him looking for us. And we're going to have the same feeling about him that we had when we set foot on that land. Now, what's your committee doing? We are calling people and we're looking for them. And we have a reputation in North Carolina as an unusual church. We're called the Miracle Church in some circles. When we find that man, we think we're going to know him. And when the committee is 100% certain that that's the man we want, then we're going to bring him here and we're going to have him to come here and preach. But that is what you have voted for. That's what you have commissioned us to do. We can't bring in 5 or 6 men and let you hear them and then you choose between them. That's going to divide us all over again. Your committee, you have given us the authority and the commission to go do that for you. It's going to take some time. We cannot rush that. It's all in God's time and in his hand. And we're going to know when we find that man. And he's going to know when he has found us. That's where we are right now. That's what we're doing. Let's go another slide. Now I want to remind you of one thing. Who is important in this church? You see those words up there? The first shall be last and the last shall be first. The disciples were asking Jesus at the end of his ministry, which of us will be first in your kingdom? And that's what he told them. The wage that we're going to get is all the same. We're all going to receive the same salvation, the same eternal life. It doesn't make any difference if you were on the initial steering committee or charter member. If you join today, you are as important in this church as the people that started it. We want you to know that. And now I'm going to show you the most important slide, the most important God things that have ever happened to this church. This is not all of them. And they're not in chronological order. They're in alphabetical order. Let's start that up. Okay, that has looped through one time. You can stop it now. This is the direction that your committee is moving in. I'm going to ask the members of the speech committee to come up here on the platform and stand with me now. And while these are coming, I'm going to ask the active deacons to come forward and stand with us. All of these are committed to what we just seen. And any deacons who are not active, you've been ordained, if you agree with this, I'm asking you to come up here as well. Make your way to the front. Now folks, everyone up here is in agreement that this is the direction we need to go in. Now look around you. All these men and women are up here to serve you. You are the reason we're here. You are the most important God thing that's here. I'm not going to ask you to pray a prayer for their search committee. I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand. What I am going to ask you to do is to get up and come down here and join us at the front. And in so doing, you confirm that this is the kind of church you want to continue. Would you please do that? Tommy is going to close the service.